15 Genius 1980s Inventions that failed massively. Under the dazzling neon lights and the vibrant music blaring from giant boomboxes, the 1980s were a fertile ground for an explosion of creative ideas. It was an era that kicked off a series of inventions expected to make history. But not every idea became a legend. There were genius inventions that seemed destined to change the world, but quickly failed, leaving regret for an entire generation. Let's explore some of the blockbuster inventions that caused a stir in this decade. Apple Lisa. Starting our list with a name that many of us might have heard of, especially if you love technology, Apple Lisa. Launched in 1983, Lisa was a monster of its time, featuring a 5 MHz processor and 1 MB of RAM. Imagine back then, a computer with 1 MB of RAM was a massive number, far exceeding most personal computers of its era. What truly made Lisa different and revolutionary was that it was one of the first computers on the mass market equipped with a graphical user interface, GUI. Before that, to interact with a computer, you had to type complex command lines onto a black and white screen. But with Lisa, you could use a strange device called a mouse to interact with icons and windows on the screen. This was a revolutionary idea, promising to transform computers from a tool for specialists into a user-friendly, easy-to-use device for everyone. Steve Jobs, Apple's co-founder, dreamed of a computer that was friendly to everyone. He believed that GUI would open the door to true personal computing, where people wouldn't need to be programmers to use a computer. It was named after Jobs' daughter, reflecting his personal vision and great expectations for this project. However, unfortunately, Lisa crashed and burned spectacularly. The main reason, and a familiar one for many failed products on this list, was the exorbitant price, $9,995 at launch. Imagine a computer costing as much as a luxury car at that time. This was too expensive for the average consumer and even small businesses. Although it was advanced, the manufacturing costs and new technology pushed the price too high, making it an inaccessible luxury item. Additionally, Lisa had some technical limitations that made it less appealing. It lacked expansion slots for upgrades, meaning users couldn't easily add peripherals or upgrade memory when needed. The software library was also very limited. Even with an advanced GUI, if there weren't enough applications to run, its appeal would significantly diminish. Ultimately, the launch of the Macintosh in 1984, another Apple computer with a similar GUI but a much more affordable price, only $2,495, dealt a fatal blow to Lisa, quickly making it a sad mark in Apple's history. Coleco Adam. Next up, another ambitious but less fortunate name in the 80s personal computer race, Coleco Adam. In 1983, Coleco, a company famous for video games and toys, introduced Adam, a unique all-in-one computer system. Sounds convenient, doesn't it? It integrated a keyboard, cassette drive, and even a daisy wheel printer into one elegant device. The daisy wheel printer was a slow and noisy but common printer at the time, allowing for high-quality text printing. Coleco believed Adam was not just a work tool, but also an entertainment and educational device. They saw a large market for families and students who needed a comprehensive computer solution without having to buy each component separately. Despite its grand vision, Coleco Adam faced numerous problems. First were quality control issues. Many initial units had manufacturing defects, leading to continuous failures and technical glitches. Imagine eagerly bringing your brand new computer home, plugging it in, and it doesn't work or works intermittently. This eroded consumer trust from the very beginning. Furthermore, Adam was released too early with incomplete software and a lack of developer support, making its software library very limited. A computer without software is like a car without fuel. It can't run. It was also quite expensive, compared to other home computers at the time, although similarly advertised as all-in-one. However, perhaps the most fatal blow was the video game market crash of 1983. This crisis, mainly due to the proliferation of low-quality games and market saturation, severely impacted Coleco's ability to support and promote Adam. After incurring heavy losses, Coleco was forced to discontinue Adam's production in 1985. Timex Sinclair. Timex, a familiar name for durable and affordable watches, also wanted to enter the personal computer game in the early 80s. The result was the Timex Sinclair computer line. The Timex Sinclair was a remarkable invention at the time. It was extremely compact, lightweight, with a chiclet keyboard and a simple black and white screen. What made it different was its affordability. Timex and Sinclair Research, the British company behind the design, wanted to create a computer that ordinary people could afford, bringing computing power into every home. With a starting price of around $99, it was one of the cheapest personal computers on the market. The goal was to make computers as common as radios or TVs. It was seen as a basic educational and work tool, ideal for those new to programming or wanting to get acquainted with computers. But unfortunately, it couldn't escape extinction. The Timex Sinclair was very basic, with a tiny amount of memory, often only 2 kilobytes or 16 kilobytes RAM, and no built-in storage. This meant it couldn't run more complex software or store much data. You had to connect it to a cassette recorder to load and save programs, which was very slow and inconvenient. Its chiclet keyboard was notoriously difficult to use. The keys were small, stiff, and close together, making any serious typing activity a frustrating experience. The black and white screen also lacked graphics capabilities, putting it at a disadvantage compared to other home computers of the time, which were already starting to have color graphics and basic sound. These serious technical limitations, along with fierce competition from stronger rivals like the Commodore 64 or Apple IIe, prevented the Timex Sinclair from surviving and forced it to withdraw from the U.S. computer market in 1984. Seiko TV Watch. Imagine a wristwatch with a built-in TV. Sounds like something out of a James Bond movie back then, doesn't it? But in 1982, Seiko, a renowned Japanese watch manufacturer, made it a reality with their TV watch. This watch had a small black and white cathode ray tube screen, about 1.2 inches, and a tiny antenna, all packed into a wristwatch, accompanied by a separate receiver and video processor to be carried in a pocket. In the 80s, people were fascinated by the idea of portable electronic devices and on-the-go personal entertainment. We were at the peak of the Sony Walkman era, and the idea of a portable personal TV device that was always with you was a logical step forward. Seiko wanted to push the boundaries of a watch, allowing people to watch TV wherever they wanted, whether on the bus, in the park, or while waiting. Despite its cool factor and spy appearance, this device was truly not user-friendly and very inconvenient. The screen was too small and had limited resolution, making watching TV a frustrating experience, straining the eyes and far from the usual TV viewing experience people were accustomed to. You had to squint or bring the watch very close to your face to clearly see the grainy images. The TV watch was also quite bulky and heavy, especially when carrying the separate receiver unit, making it uncomfortable to wear for long periods. Battery life was also disappointing, lasting only a few hours, about 5 hours with AA batteries, significantly limiting its usefulness as a portable TV. Moreover, it was also very expensive, retailing for about $500 at the time, equivalent to nearly $1,500 today. This made it a luxury toy only for extreme tech enthusiasts or the wealthy. Kodak Disc 4000. Remember Kodak, a name synonymous with traditional film rolls, an undeniable giant in the photography industry. In the early 1980s, they had a bold vision: to bring photography to everyone more easily and conveniently. While digital cameras were just nascent ideas in laboratories, Kodak sought to revolutionize film photography. In 1982, Kodak introduced the Disc 4000, a compact disc-shaped camera that used a proprietary film format called film disc. Instead of traditional 35mm film rolls, the film disc was a flat, circular disc containing 15 small frames, protected in a rigid plastic casing. It was designed to be extremely user-friendly, with automatic exposure settings and flash. The goal was to make photography as simple as possible. Just point and shoot, without needing technical photography knowledge, suitable even for novice photographers. Kodak believed the disc format would be the future of photography, much like Fujifilm later believed in disposable cameras. But reality was harsh. The biggest problem was image quality. The film disc format was severely limited in resolution due to the very small negative size, resulting in grainy, blurry, and undetailed photos compared to traditional 35mm film. Many users were disappointed when they received their developed photos, finding them unclear and faded. This was a serious problem for a photography product where image quality is the core element. Second, this proprietary film format was expensive and hard to find compared to the popular 35mm film of the time. Producing and processing film discs required specialized equipment, which increased costs and meant not every photo store could process them. While Kodak was betting on the disc format, advancements in traditional film cameras were happening very rapidly. Compact 35mm point-and-shoot cameras with autofocus and ease of use became more popular and affordable. They offered superior image quality at a lower cost and comparable convenience. As a result, the Disc 4000 quickly lost its breakthrough appeal, and Kodak discontinued film discs in 1999, although disposable cameras still held their place in the market. Do you remember being shocked by the price of a tech item in the 80s? Share your memories in the comments below. Sony Beta Movie Recorder. Let's talk about another format war that defined the 80s, Betamax versus VHS. In that battle, Sony placed high hopes on its Betamax format, and one of its flagship products was the Sony Beta Movie Recorder. Launched in 1983, this was the world's first all-in-one video camera. Before that, to record video, you typically needed a separate camera connected by a cable to a bulky video recorder worn on the shoulder or placed on the ground. Beta Movie changed that. Weighing only 6 to 12 pounds, depending on the model, it freed users from cables and bulky recorders, transforming filmmaking into a just point and shoot action. It integrated the camera and Betamax recorder into a single, much more compact device. This was a bold idea, attempting to completely change how we record family moments, from picnics and birthdays to sporting events. Sony envisioned a future where everyone could easily record and share precious moments without hassle. But the biggest problem was that it recorded onto Betamax tapes. This format, though aesthetically pleasing and advertised by Sony as having superior image quality, had significantly shorter recording times than VHS. A standard Betamax tape could only record about 60 to 90 minutes, while VHS could record up to 2 to 4 hours. This became a major disadvantage when users wanted to record long TV shows or major events. More regrettably, you couldn't watch the video immediately after recording on the Beta Movie itself. You had to go home and play it on a separate Betamax machine. This completely contradicted the convenient point-and-shoot concept Sony aimed for, and the price was by no means small. At about $1,500 at the time, it was a very large investment for an average family. Sony had big dreams, but Beta Movie simply couldn't keep up with the convenience and affordability of VHS systems, which were becoming increasingly popular. Despite being a pioneer in integrated camcorders, it became another victim of the fierce format war of the 80s. MCA DiscoVision. Before VHS tapes dominated the home entertainment market in the 80s, MCA, a major entertainment conglomerate, wanted to elevate the home movie viewing experience. Thus, in 1978, they introduced the MCA DiscoVision system, later simply called DiscoVision. This was essentially an early attempt to create a consumer-friendly optical disc format for movies and video content. It used laser vision technology, which was very different from the magnetic tape VHS of the time. These sleek, reflective discs were supposed to deliver superior audio and video quality, promising an unprecedented home movie viewing experience. MCA had grand ambitions, wanting people to enjoy movies at home with high-quality picture and sound, and even had the potential for interactive features like bonus content or director's commentary, things we only commonly saw on DVDs much later. You might wonder why such a good idea failed, right? Like the Apple Lisa, the DiscoVision system was too expensive. Both the player and the fragile, easily scratched discs cost a significant amount of money. A DiscoVision player cost up to $700 in 1978, equivalent to about $3,300 today. This made it a luxury item that few people could afford. Furthermore, the 1980s were the peak of the format war between VHS and Betamax. DiscoVision was caught in this battle and couldn't break in, as it could only play but not record. The film and content library was also very limited compared to VHS. Discs were prone to skipping and freezing, and players were fragile and easily broken. Even harsh weather conditions could affect disc quality. Despite its initial promising premise, DiscoVision fell victim to high costs, a limited content library, and fierce competition from cheaper, more reliable formats like VHS. Fisher-Price PXL 2000. Do you remember those bulky camcorders from back then, often belonging to your parents? Fisher-Price, the renowned toy company, had a different vision, a handheld video camera for children to unleash the creativity of young filmmakers. The PXL 2000. Launched in 1987, this unusual device recorded video onto standard audio cassette tapes. Can you believe it? The PXL 2000 had a low-resolution black and white video sensor and an integrated microphone, all packed into a plastic casing that looked like it stepped out of a children's sci-fi movie. Fisher-Price wanted children to make their own movies, encouraging storytelling and creativity from a young age. This was a rather unique and ambitious idea for a toy. But the PXL 2000 had obvious problems. First was its disastrous video quality. Even by 80s standards, its black and white footage was grainy, distorted, and heavily pixelated. Images were often very dark, blurry, and difficult to see. Audio cassettes had extremely limited capacity, only allowing for very short video clips, about 5 to 10 minutes per side. Transferring footage to a TV or computer was also cumbersome and poor quality. Finally, the unsuitable launch timing and high price. By the late 80s, the market had shifted to more advanced and capable video recording technologies like mini VHS camcorders. Although the PXL 2000 was a toy, it was expensive, about $179, equivalent to about $480 today. Many parents skipped it due to the high price for a toy with poor image quality. Children also didn't find much use for its low-quality videos. The PXL 2000 simply couldn't compete in quality and convenience, becoming one of the most unusual failures of the 1980s. CED. Before CD-ROMs, later, and DVDs came into existence, RCA placed high hopes on the capacitance electronic disc, CED, a video disc system launched in 1981. It looked like a giant vinyl record but played movies. At the time, it felt very high-tech, and you couldn't handle the disc directly. Instead, you had to slide the entire disc cartridge into the player to protect the disc from dust and scratches. This was an entirely new technology, promising a higher quality home movie viewing experience than VHS tapes. But from the beginning, there were problems. Image quality wasn't actually good compared to expectations, and more notably, the discs were very easily scratched. Even a bit of dust could ruin your movie, causing skipping or freezing. Compared to the convenience and relative durability of VHS tapes, CED was truly a reliability nightmare. Worse still, while VHS and Betamax were already in many homes and allowed users to record TV shows, pause, fast forward, and rewind, CED could only play content. The lack of recording capability was a fatal weakness when competitors offered that feature. RCA spent years and hundreds of millions of dollars developing CED, starting in the late 1960s. But by the time it launched in 1981, the world had moved on, and the market was dominated by VHS. Disc manufacturing costs were also high, leading to expensive retail prices for both players and movie discs. Despite RCA's extensive efforts in promotion and support, they had to announce the discontinuation of CED in 1984, incurring huge losses. Atari CX-77 Touch Tablet. In the era when personal computers began to take off, people started dreaming of new ways to interact with technology. In 1984, Atari, a giant in the gaming and home computer industry, introduced the Atari CX-77 Touch Tablet. This was a digital drawing tablet that allowed users to create art on their TV screens, with a stylus and Atari Artist software offering 128 colors and various patterns. It offered a glimpse into digital creativity, an idea truly ahead of its time. Imagine in 1984, when most computers only had very basic graphics capabilities, the idea of drawing directly on a screen and creating colorful artworks was extraordinary. Atari wanted to expand creative possibilities for home users, not just limited to gaming or word processing. However, a major problem was the lack of additional software support beyond Atari Artist. Although the bundled software was quite good, there weren't many other applications or games that took advantage of the tablet's features. Most people used home computers at the time for gaming or basic tasks like word processing, and digital art was still too new and lacked a broad market. It also required a separate program recorder, like a floppy disk drive or cassette, to save artwork, adding complexity and cost for users. Operating on the tablet was also not as sensitive and intuitive as later devices, making it difficult to create complex works. Although Atari's idea was ahead of its time, it couldn't succeed due to the lack of a suitable ecosystem for market demand. Out of all these inventions, which one do you miss the most? Let us know in the comments below. IBM PCjr. IBM, a name synonymous with personal computers in the 80s, wanted to bring computers into every home. After the resounding success of the IBM PC 5150 in 1981, IBM tried to replicate that success in the home computer segment by introducing the IBM PCjr in 1985-1984. The PCjr looked good, had a compact design, and some interesting features, carrying the prestige of a strong brand. You're buying an IBM, it's the best. It had compatibility with some original IBM PC software, featured enhanced color graphics and sound, promising to be an entertainment and educational hub for the family. The PCjr's biggest problem was its keyboard. This keyboard was small and difficult to type on. People even called it the chiclet keyboard because the keys looked like small, separated, cheap-feeling gum pieces. Typing on it was an uncomfortable experience, especially for users familiar with the standard IBM PC keyboard. This diminished the premium feel expected from an IBM product and did not live up to the IBM name. Another issue was poor compatibility with many popular personal computer programs. Although advertised as PC compatible due to some hardware and BIOS differences, Many popular games and applications on the IBM PC either didn't run or ran unstably on the PCjr. This reduced its value for home users who wanted a versatile computer, and the price was too high for a home computer. With a starting price of about $669, equivalent to about $1,900 today, it was much more expensive than competitors like the Commodore 64 or Apple IIc, which offered better performance at a lower price. As a result, the PCjr became a commercial failure and was discontinued by IBM just 1 year after its launch. Apple Macintosh Portable. Apple, after creating a sensation with the Macintosh in 1984, continued to dream of a mobile future. In 1989, Apple released the Macintosh Portable, hoping to start a new trend in mobile computing and bring the power of the Mac on the road. It had a full keyboard, a large and sharp monochrome LCD screen, integrating advanced active matrix technology at the time. This was an attempt to create a truly portable computer, allowing users to work anywhere, anytime. But weighing 16 pounds, about 7.3 kilograms, it was not at all easy to carry. Imagine lugging a small suitcase full of bricks instead of today's thin and light laptops. This was an extremely cumbersome weight for a device called portable. Additionally, its design was quite large, inconvenient to place on the lap or use in cramped spaces. Poor battery life was also a serious problem. Although it used large-capacity lead-acid batteries, sometimes the computer wouldn't turn on unless the battery was fully charged, even when plugged in. This caused great frustration for users who expected a device to operate reliably on the go. With an excessively high price, starting at $6,500, equivalent to over $15,000 today, the Macintosh Portable was an inaccessible luxury item for most consumers and even businesses. For this price, you could buy a good used car. Apple aimed to lead the mobile computing market, but the product failed to meet expectations. It became a prime example of a product with advanced technology hindered by its size, weight, battery issues, and especially its unreasonable price. Although a commercial failure, the Macintosh Portable was still an important step in the development of laptops and a precursor to Apple's later PowerBooks. Colgate Frozen Lasagna. Sometimes, the biggest failures don't come from high technology, but from unexpected combination ideas. In the 1980s, the toothpaste giant Colgate made an unexpected move, launching its own line of frozen food products, including Colgate Frozen Lasagna. The idea behind it seemed simple. Colgate had strong brand recognition and consumer trust globally with its personal care products. They thought people would trust their name on food, that if Colgate made good toothpaste, they would also make good and safe food. This was an attempt to extend the brand beyond its core business and leverage customer loyalty. They even advertised these dishes as a way to encourage children to eat after brushing their teeth. A rather odd marketing strategy. But that trust didn't pan out. Consumers saw the Colgate brand and immediately thought of minty toothpaste, fresh breath, or oral hygiene products, not a hot meal full of cheese and tomato sauce. The combination of a food and hygiene brand was simply too strange and confusing for customers. Our brains are programmed to associate a brand with a specific type of product, and seeing the Colgate logo on a frozen lasagna box created a strong cognitive conflict. Lifesavers Soda. Continuing the series of failures stemming from mistaken brand extensions, we have Lifesavers Soda. Lifesavers, with its colorful, fruit-flavored circular candies, had become an American candy icon. By the 80s, they decided to turn their popular candy into a refreshing drink, with the idea of offering fans the same sweet flavors in liquid form. On paper, it sounds fun and colorful, right? A soda can with bright Lifesavers candies, promising a familiar yet new taste experience. But reality was not so smooth. This soda was described as too sweet, to the point where most people found it difficult to drink more than a few sips. While a sweet candy is a small treat to be enjoyed, An overly sweet soda becomes unpleasant and not refreshing. What worked for candy did not work for beverages. The candy's flavor is concentrated to deliver an explosion of taste in the mouth, but when diluted into a drink, it became cloying and overwhelming. Even with a clear brand and recognizable name, the product was unsuccessful. Similar to Colgate's case, consumers had a strong association between lifesavers and candy. The transition to soda created a mismatch in their minds. Lifesavers. Soda quickly disappeared from shelves, becoming another cautionary tale about not trying to stretch a brand too far from its core essence. Have you ever tried one of these strange products, like Colgate Lasagna toothpaste or Lifesaver soda? How did you feel at the time? Comment and let us know your experience. Nissan Pulsar NX Sportback. The 80s were not only a time of technological inventions, but also a period of experimentation in design, including in the automotive industry. The Nissan Pulsar NX Sportback is a testament to that. Launched in the mid-80s, this car attempted to be two cars in one with its modular rear hatch. What was the idea? Drivers could switch between a sporty coupe and a mini wagon, a smaller variant of a station wagon, simply by changing the rear hatch. This was called omnidirectional exterior. Nissan tried to bring flexibility and practicality to a compact sports car. It was a bold, futuristic idea, promising a versatile solution for consumers. You could have a sleek car for personal trips and then transform it into a small cargo carrier when needed. But the design looked strange and unbalanced. Especially when the Sportback section was attached, the car looked quite heavy at the rear, detracting from the sporty appearance of the original coupe. The added cost for the Sportback option also didn't help, as consumers had to pay extra for this feature. In reality, people were confused about its purpose. Was it fun, practical, or both? It wasn't truly a utilitarian wagon, nor was it a genuinely impressive sports coupe in terms of performance. The complexity of detaching and storing modular parts was also a hindrance. Nissan took too big a risk with an experimental design, but the market wasn't ready for it. Customers preferred simplicity and clarity in car design. The Pulsar NX Sportback didn't truly find its place in the market and disappeared after just a few years of its launch. Top 25 products that don't exist anymore, we all miss. Remember the beep of the answering machine, the excitement of flipping through Adelia's catalog, or the days when Internet Explorer was the gateway to the world? Join us as we look back at these legendary items that now live on only in our memories. Landline phones. Let's start with something that was once the center of every household, the only tangible communication line connecting us to the outside world: landline phones. Do you remember the feeling when the family's cream-colored phone, with its tangled, coiled cord, rang on the desk or in the kitchen corner? In 2003, just over 2 decades ago, nearly 1.3 billion landline phones were in use globally. They were the primary means of communication for important calls, from scheduling doctor's appointments to urgent messages when you weren't at home or the office. A landline call could be a significant event, requiring everyone to stop what they were doing to listen to who was calling. The feeling of dialing each number on the keypad, the crisp ringing sound echoing throughout the house, all are now just memories of a slower, simpler time, a time when life wasn't as rushed as the continuous notifications from smartphones. So, what made such a familiar item disappear? The answer is not surprising: mobile phones. With the rapid development of mobile technology, landline phones were quickly overshadowed and became almost obsolete. Surprisingly, just 10 years after 2003 and 2013, 91% of American adults owned a mobile phone. By 2022, this number is even more astonishing. 3 out of 4 American households use only mobile phones, and a mere 1% of households still use landline phones. Some countries are even starting to decommission their landline networks. we can clearly see that the physical connection has been severed, making way for the wireless convenience that smartphones offer. Overhead projectors. If you went to school from the 60s to the early 2000s, you'll definitely remember the image of those bulky overhead projectors that teachers often rolled into the classroom. Ah, the overhead projector, a familiar item in every school. This was the perfect way for a teacher to display material for the whole class. These machines were large and heavy, often taking up a lot of space in the classroom. The projected images were often brown and sometimes difficult to read, but they were a popular item worldwide because they were quite cheap and provided an early form of interactive education. Do you remember that small, famous moment when the teacher allowed a student to come up to the board to write or draw directly on the transparency film? Or the hilarious moment when a mischievous student in the front row blew an important document off the stand? Despite their inherent flaws, overhead projectors were a hallmark of the classroom for over 50 years. But then, a digital revolution arrived. Thanks to new technologies like interactive whiteboards and digital projectors, these bulky machines were completely eliminated. Even 3M, a company that manufactured projectors for over 5 decades, ceased production of this product in 2015. A big victory for technological progress, but a significant loss for those mischievous students of yesteryear. Now, a new world has opened up with modern digital devices, but the whirring sound of the fan and the blurry images of the overhead projector are still a memorable part of our childhood, of the lessons we still tried to copy down. 3G phones. In the relentless race of smartphone technology, each new generation brings amazing improvements. The third generation of smartphones, also known as 3G phones, had many memorable winners, like the iPhone 5, Galaxy S9, and Google Pixel 2. They brought us faster internet access, video calling capabilities, and a much better multimedia experience compared to the 2G generation. However, like any developing industry, there will always come a day when one era ends to make way for another. It wasn't the 3G devices themselves that were canceled or banned, but rather their network infrastructure that needed to be upgraded to meet the latest standards. Why keep 3G when 4G is technologically superior, not to mention the spectacular arrival of 5G with almost unimaginable speeds and latency? Compaq. In the 1990s, few tech companies were bigger than Compaq. They were once the world's largest PC system vendor and were known for producing IBM PC-compatible computers. Compaq was more than just a brand. They were a symbol of innovation in the personal computer era, providing powerful and reliable devices to millions of users across the globe. However, the early 2000s were a very difficult period for Compaq. They faced fierce competition and could not effectively compete with their main rival, Dell. Dell, with its direct business model and more efficient supply chain, quickly surpassed Compaq to become the largest PC vendor. The battle for market share became too harsh, and Compaq, despite once being a giant, could not hold its ground. Finally, in 2002, Compaq was acquired by Hewlett-Packard, a major move that reshaped the personal computer industry. Compaq remained a sub-brand of HP until 2013, when it was officially discontinued in the United States. The fall of a titan that once dominated the PC market like Compaq is a clear reminder of the relentless competition in the tech industry, where only the fastest to adapt can survive. BlackBerry phones. Before Android and iOS dominated the mobile phone space, there was a third contender in the race that was once king. For most of the mid to late 2000s, Research in Motion's BlackBerry was the most popular smartphone brand in the US, and not by a small margin. Do you remember the BlackBerry phone with its famous physical QWERTY keyboard? The satisfying click-clack sound of typing, or the blinking LED notification light for new messages, made BlackBerry a symbol of professionalism and coolness at the time. Their brand recognition was unparalleled, and they had sleek products to support that, at least initially. With the advantage of being a mobile device that could send and receive emails, browse the web, and even play some simple games, BlackBerry revolutionized how we communicated and worked on the phone. Unfortunately, however, they failed to evolve fast enough to match the ever-changing mobile market landscape. As Android and iOS flourished in the 2010s with full touchscreens and rich app ecosystems, BlackBerry lost nearly 3/4 of its sales. The BlackBerry keyboard, once a strength, was completely rendered obsolete by the advent of touchscreen technology. The former king of smartphones with its famous QWERTY keyboard is now gone. Among these once dominant tech products, which device makes you remember your childhood the most? Share your thoughts. Walkman. Once upon a time, Sony created a product based on the idea of portable cassette tapes, and the music industry was never the same. That name was Walkman. With just a Walkman and a favorite cassette tape, you could take your music anywhere, from the park to the bus. It revolutionized personal music listening and quickly became so popular that it was synonymous with the concept of mobile music. The Walkman was surpassed by the rise of smartphones and then the iPod, but this portable music player lives on as an icon of 20th century pop culture. The characteristic whirring sound of the cassette tape winding, the feeling of rewinding and replaying a favorite song over and over, or plugging in the legendary orange foam headphones and immersing yourself in your own world. These are unforgettable memories that the Walkman brought. Today, we can carry thousands of songs in our pockets, but the feeling of hunting for a new cassette or recording music directly from the radio was a unique experience that only the Walkman offered. Library card catalogs. Perhaps Generation Z and Alpha have never used one of the most important tools of the 20th century for library research: card catalogs. Imagine a large, quiet room filled with dark wooden drawer cabinets, each drawer containing hundreds, even thousands, of small cards. This was the heart of every library, the place that held the key to a vast treasure trove of knowledge. Organizing thousands, even millions of books was incredibly difficult, so a complex record system was needed. Card catalogs were huge drawer cabinets containing small cards about every book in the library, arranged by author's name, title, or subject. To find a book, you had to know one of those pieces of information, then carefully browse through each card in the seemingly endless sea of cards. Each card was a doorway, leading you to the exact location of the book on the shelf. Dedicated GPS devices. Do you remember the days when handheld GPS devices were considered the future in a box? It was an era when we no longer had to struggle with crumpled paper maps or printed directions from MapQuest. Instead, you just entered a location, and boom! You had precise directions to get there. Before, everyone had a paper map in the car, relying on passengers to keep up with directions as you tried to navigate a new city. That was never fun. About 10 years ago, we relied heavily on these dedicated GPS devices. They were the saviors for every long trip and exploration. Having a voice guide saying, "Turn left," "Oh no, turn right," "Turn back around," became a thing of the past. Fortunately, with the advent of GPS, everything changed. Now, everyone has GPS in their pocket thanks to their smartphone. Even if you don't have a smartphone, most modern cars come with built-in GPS, turning dedicated personal navigation devices into a waste of space. Although dedicated navigation devices are still popular with some outdoor enthusiasts, e.g. hikers or mountain bikers, for everyday use, their function has been replaced by other devices. Phone booths. If you look along a busy roadside today, you are more likely to find a public Wi-Fi hotspot than a phone booth. This change has been happening for a long time. Do you remember when phone booths were simply a place to make calls, not a canvas for graffiti or a shelter from the elements? If you grew up in the 90s, you might still remember. In the past, these red or green phone booths, with old rotary or push-button phones inside, were an integral part of the urban landscape. They were a refuge for emergency calls, secret messages, or simply the only way to communicate when you weren't home. You had to find the right coins, insert them into the slot, and hope the call would connect. However, phone booths gradually faded from the 2000s, and today, they are completely obsolete. Since smartphones became the communication standard, public phones have been left in a dismal state, often vandalized or used as temporary shelters by the homeless. Almost all booths in the United States have been removed or converted into phone charging stations or Wi-Fi hotspots. CD binders. From the mid-'80s until they gradually disappeared in the 2000s, they were everything, the main way we consumed music. With each new album released, we eagerly ran to the store, bought the shiny CD, and brought it home to listen to repeatedly. Our CD collection grew larger and larger, and organizing them became a problem. To solve this, many people used cute little binders full of clear plastic sleeves. These binders not only kept everything neat, but also made it easy to browse our huge music collection, from rock hits to favorite pop tunes. However, with the disappearance of CDs, making way for digital music and streaming services, CD binders also disappeared. Now, scrolling through a phone to find a song cannot compare to the satisfying feeling of flipping through the pages of a CD binder, looking at album covers, and choosing the music you want. It was a different era of music listening, an era of tangibility and personalization. Delia's catalog. Even by today's standards, having the latest and greatest fashion trends delivered straight to your door was a pretty appealing offer. In the 90s, for many teenagers, it was almost a must-have. It was the Delia's catalog. Delia's catalog was not just a sales book. It presented itself more like a fashion magazine than a store. That novel approach helped it dominate the fashion trends of an entire decade, especially among young people. Because there were few or no competitors in the teen market, Delia's was able to thrive, becoming a main source of inspiration and shopping for many young girls. We eagerly awaited each new issue, flipping through pages to find the hottest outfits and must-have accessories. But since the novelty of ordering by catalog gradually faded, the brand no longer had a firm footing. And then, when online shopping officially took over, Delia's, with its glossy pages and trendy outfits, quietly ceased printing. From eagerly awaiting catalogs to shopping with just a click, the world has changed so fast. Do you remember eagerly awaiting Delia's catalog or any other shopping catalog to be delivered to your home? What did you use to buy from there? Napster and LimeWire. Do you remember the early days of the internet when downloading and sharing free music was a revolution? Napster and LimeWire changed the way we accessed music forever, ushering in a new era of convenience while also causing countless controversies. Launched in 1999, Napster popularized the concept of peer-to-peer P2P file sharing, allowing millions of users to easily exchange MP3 music files with each other. This was unprecedented, and it ushered in an era of internet copyright infringement. This led to a lot of legal trouble from record labels and artists, forcing the application to permanently shut down in 2002. However, Napster's death did not mean the end of P2P. Several alternatives emerged, including the extremely popular LimeWire, which by 2007 was installed on 1/3 of computers worldwide. LimeWire was similar to Napster, allowing users to download music, movies, and other files. But then, legal issues and the development of legitimate distribution platforms like iTunes, later Apple Music, and Spotify led to their closure. Certainly, these applications caused many ethical and legal controversies, but their impact on the music industry and how we discovered our favorite tracks cannot be denied. Typewriters. Nothing compares to the distinctive clatter of a typewriter, a sound that once filled offices around the world. From the late 1800s to the 1980s, that rhythmic sound was the symphony of productivity. Once the workhorse of offices, typewriters are now a relic of the past, preserved as collectibles. These machines required precision and a certain force to type characters clearly on paper. Each keystroke was a decision, as correcting errors was not as easy as on a computer. You had to use Tipex or a special correction fluid. And then the satisfying ding sound that rang out when you finished a line, signaling it was time to push the carriage left to start a new line. That was an indispensable part of the experience. Although typewriters are still used in some places, in most countries, they have become completely obsolete with the advent of computers. Now, we are all accustomed to quiet keyboards and the ease of correcting errors with the backspace key. Interestingly, modern computer keyboards still retain the classic QWERTY layout that typewriters introduced, a testament to its lasting legacy. In November 2012, the last self-proclaimed typewriter manufactured in the UK was produced by Brother and donated to the Science Museum, London, marking the end of an era. That clatter still echoes in the memories of those who were once attached to them, like a symphony of diligence and discipline. Physical encyclopedias. Do you still keep a set of physical encyclopedias in your home? We often take the usefulness of the internet for granted, but just a few decades ago, being able to find any information in a few seconds was unimaginable. Physical encyclopedias used to be very exciting. They were large, thick sets of books, often elegantly bound in hardcover, with hundreds, even thousands of pages containing knowledge from A to Z. They were the main source of knowledge for students and anyone who wanted to learn about the world. The feeling of running your fingers across hundreds of books neatly arranged on the shelf, then selecting a volume to search for information, opening the hard cover, turning each old page, smelling the ink and paper. That was a learning experience full of sensations. However, they were also large, heavy, inconvenient, and took up a lot of space in your home. Do you have any special memories with the encyclopedia set at your home or library? Let us know. Laserdisc. Although very popular in Japan and Southeast Asia, Laserdisc never really took off in North America. This predecessor format to DVD was advertised as offering high video quality, but they were extremely bulky and prone to skipping unwanted scenes. In the home video format war, Laserdisc offered superior picture and sound quality compared to VHS, its main competitor. Sharper images, clearer sound, and the ability to include special features made it an attractive option. However, VHS beat Laserdisc in the home video market, mainly because VHS was cheaper and could record live TV, which Laserdisc could not do. Nevertheless, Laserdisc found its niche, especially among film enthusiasts who appreciated its superior video and audio quality and special features. It also had a significant influence on the later development of DVD. Kodak cameras. This Kodak moment ended in a camera flash. Kodak was once a name synonymous with photography. From vibrant color films to simple point-and-shoot cameras, Kodak helped millions of people capture precious moments in life. Ironically, although they were the ones who developed the first standalone digital camera in 1975, the company's management was extremely hesitant to shift their brand away from film rolls. They feared that digital technology would harm their lucrative traditional film business. That turned out to be a fatal mistake. By the time Kodak tried to catch up, the digital market had already left them far behind with innovations from competitors like Canon, Nikon, and Sony. Tab soda. Surprisingly, Coca-Cola Company's first diet drink wasn't the familiar Diet Coke we know today. It was Tab, a sugar-free soda marketed to people who wanted to control their weight, launched in 1963. As one of the first beverages to tap into the diet drink market, Tab was an instant success and created a new trend. It offered a lower-calorie option for soft drink lovers who were concerned about sugar intake. However, Tab's success met with a kind of friendly fire when its parent company, Coca-Cola, introduced Diet Coke in 1982. Diet Coke, with a more familiar name and a stronger marketing strategy, quickly surpassed Tab and became the company's leading diet beverage. Tab lost its unique reputation and gradually faded. Despite the efforts of a loyal and devoted Tab audience, the drink shipped its last consignment in 2020, officially ending an era. The story of Tab shows that sometimes your biggest competitor is your own company's new product. Do you still remember the taste of Tab with its distinctive flavor and slightly different aftertaste compared to other diet sodas? VCRs. For decades, if you wanted to watch something on TV, you had to be there at the right time, on the right channel. Then suddenly, the VCR, video cassette recorder, appeared, and it completely changed the game. VHS, Video Home System. These bulky cassette tapes brought us classic movies, but they also took a long time to rewind. VCRs gave us the ability to record TV shows and watch them whenever we wanted. Suddenly, all it took was a convenient VHS tape, and you could record anything on TV to watch later. It was unprecedented freedom, a revolution in home entertainment. You could record your favorite movie when you were away, or fast forward and rewind special scenes to rewatch them. The whirring sound of rewinding the tape, the click sound when switching scenes, or the tapes recording your favorite shows, all were a part of our childhood, of family movie nights. However, then DVDs came along, easier, cheaper, and more reliable than VHS tapes. The superior picture and sound quality of DVDs, along with their compact size and easy accessibility, quickly made VCRs obsolete. Fast forward to today, and VHS is no longer around. The world hasn't had to struggle to find the rewind button since then. As DVDs gained prominence, the demand for video cassette recorders also disappeared. The last VCR manufacturer ceased production in 2016. It was the end of a golden era of home entertainment before the streaming world took over. Personal digital assistants, PDAs. It sounds very cool and futuristic, but now no one needs a personal digital assistant, PDA, anymore. Go back in time to the early 2000s, any credible businessman or woman had a PDA. These compact devices, like Palm Pilot or Handspring Visor, were the optimal way to keep track of important meetings, manage deadlines, and could even send faxes. They were the first pocket computers, helping you organize your life and work most efficiently. Everything that made PDAs unique in the 80s and 90s, from basic internet access, messaging, to reminder and scheduling functions, has now become common and integrated into any smart device on the market. Our smartphones and computers do all that and more, with larger screens, stronger connectivity, and countless applications. Declining PDA sales reflected this. Apple even almost went bankrupt after betting heavily on the Apple Newton, one of their pioneering PDAs. However, this technology was put to good use, and some companies began producing mobile phones as alternatives, leading to the birth of smartphones. The evolution of technology is amazing, turning a device that was once a symbol of future technology into a part of history. Netscape Navigator. This was not just a web browser. This was the web browser that once dominated. Netscape Navigator. In the early days of the internet, Netscape Navigator was the gateway that led millions of people to the online world. Netscape Navigator's intuitive user interface helped popularize the widespread use of the internet. It was simple, easy to use, and one of the first ways to explore the World Wide Web. It was once the undisputed king. However, this dominance did not last. Microsoft entered the game with Internet Explorer, which came bundled with new PCs and an unprecedented marketing campaign, destroying Netscape's dominance. Microsoft's launch was so aggressive that the U.S. court officially called it an illegal monopoly. Netscape Navigator never regained its audience and officially disappeared in 2008. This is a story of a fierce browser war that ended with the defeat of a pioneer, but paved the way for a new era of the internet, where competition drives constant innovation. Floppy disks. Do you remember floppy disks? You could only save a few documents on one, or, if you were really lucky, you could even squeeze in a single 8-bit game. In 1996, an estimated 5 billion of these floppy disks were in use globally, and that was just the standard version. These square, fragile disks, with their hard plastic casing and magnetic disc inside, were the primary data storage tool for decades, from saving simple text files to software programs. But by 2007, floppy disks were gathering dust, becoming a relic of the past. The culprits behind their sharp decline in sales were mainly USB drives, memory cards, and later cloud storage. Floppy disks simply weren't designed to keep up with the rapid increase in memory technology. In the modern world of USB drives and terabyte hard drives, floppy disks are as useless as a square wheel on a highway. Answering machines. The familiar beep and affectionate messages from answering machines are now a part of the past. While not entirely gone from our memories, it's fair to say that they are no longer sold as widely as before, or indeed, not sold at all. This is unfortunate, because their cousin, voicemail, is still a very popular part of modern mobile communication. However, the fatal flaw of answering machines was that they were tied to home landlines. As landlines are rapidly becoming obsolete and completely replaced by smartphones, answering machines are gradually disappearing with them. Do you still remember someone's special answering machine greeting, or the anxious feeling of waiting for the beep to leave a message? Now, those moments have been replaced by the convenience of voice messages on mobile phones, but the memory of a bygone era still fills our minds. MP3 players. The music business is a difficult place to stay relevant, but besides the failures, there's another icon, the iPod, a music player that did everything right. Before the iPod, MP3 players shocked the music world, making our daily commutes more pleasant and workouts more fun. These compact, pocket-sized MP3 players brought a revolution. We could download music from our computers to the devices, carrying hundreds of songs with us without needing to carry stacks of CDs or cassette tapes. But then, Steve Jobs introduced Apple's iPod in 2001, and the world felt like a new era of technology had arrived. Goodbye, Walkman. Goodbye, MP3. The future was here. Everyone wanted an iPod. It was a huge hit, a symbol of fashion and technology. However, even the iPod couldn't last forever. Just as MP3 players reached their peak, smartphones evolved enough to do exactly the same thing, and more. The iPhone overshadowing the iPod is a good analogy for what happened to almost every MP3 player on the market. Smartphones integrated music playback, and, just as MP3s eliminated mini-disc, and the iPod dethroned the regular MP3 player, the iPod also gradually faded into oblivion. Internet Explorer. From the ashes of Netscape Navigator, Microsoft developed a web browser with a legacy that speaks for itself: Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer was a fixture on almost all Windows PCs from the mid-1990s to the mid-2000s. At its peak, Internet Explorer had a massive 95% market share, almost the only browser most people use to access the internet. Microsoft tried to differentiate its early IE versions by focusing on adding new features rather than just trying to make the browser as fast as possible. However, relentless competition emerged. Firefox, Google Chrome, and Safari all entered the game in the following years, each taking a significant portion of Internet Explorer's user base. IE's market share plummeted, and Microsoft seemed to not seriously try to address the issue, leaving it behind in terms of speed, security, and features. Ultimately, the king of the internet had to give way to newer generations with its relaunch as Microsoft Edge. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoy these journeys back in time and want to discover even more fascinating stories, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Who Remember to stay updated with our latest videos. See you again on our next trip down memory lane.